na kuleta hapa.
Well, time for us to talk about public speaking. But before that, we've introduced a new segment that is called Bizword. And here, we try to educate our viewers when it comes to key terminologies, I beg your pardon, that we always use here on the business team. But really, what do these words mean? Well, our reporter, and that is Elizabeth Julie, was out and about, and of course you have seen this word, that is hedge fund. Ever thought about its meaning or how it relates in the business world? Well, we took to the streets of Nairobi to ask whether Kenyans know the word in KTN's business premier segment, Bizword. Take a look.
Would you happen to know what hedge fund is?
No.
Hedge fund.
Hedge fund.
Those are funds which used to equip someone and to help other people.
Would you happen to know what hedge fund is?
Hedge funds? No. All right. Not many people know what it is. Well, let me ask our very own Griffin Somwenga, who is also a word master of sorts. Of course, also a key trainer when it comes to matters to do with public speaking. He joins us for our second episode, and today we are discussing about the art of pitching. If you remember, 2 weeks ago we discussed matters to do with what is public speaking, why you need public speaking, and how can you use it to increase your sellability as a person. Many thanks, Griffins, for making time for us.
Thank you, Abe. Thank you.
Well, I was worried, but now you are here in studio. Welcome on board.
Thank you so much. Crazy traffic on Mombasa Road, but here we are.
All right.
Okay.
But let's first start off with hedge fund.
I hope you're not starting at hedge fund. Okay, anyway. Good.
What's a hedge fund?
I'm going to hazard a guess or a way to, put me on the spot on live television. But anyway, but I'm an accounting student.
Yeah.
I went to accounting class. I hope my lecturers are not looking at me right now. What's a hedge fund? I think, okay. A hedge fund is kind of some money that is put aside when it's kind of a security fund for maybe a big project. So it's kind of some insurance of sorts. So if you want to, for instance, import goods now, you might go for a hedge fund. You hedge. A hedge fund is kind of some money that is put aside for any eventualities, for unforeseen circumstances, such that in case of anything. But that's purely hazarding a guess.
Okay.
Let's go back to what
you do best. So, Griffins, yes. Last week we talked about what is public speaking.
Absolutely.
We said it's very important for someone to be able to express themselves in public. And public speaking is not this monster that people fear, that if you are called upon to speak, you are able to address issues as they are. But today you're talking about the art of pitching. What are some of the key fundamentals when you come to how to pitch? You're a business person, you're trying to get a new investor on board. How do you go about it?
Thank you, Abi. Talking about pitching essentials, every day in life, we are busy pitching ourselves. A pitch is basically 1 or 2 minutes about your idea. A pitch is basically 1 or 2 minutes about yourself. A pitch is basically 1 or 2 minutes. A boyfriend could be pitching to a girl. You pitch. So life is about pitching. Everything that we do in every sphere of life, we are always pitching. Scratch a little bit. You'll realize that every day in life, what you're doing is pitching. So what's a pitch? A pitch, in essence, is a sell. The problem is, when you ask many people, actually, in my trainings, the first thing I do is ask people, how many guys want to be salespeople? Trust you me, not many people want to be associated with sales, because sales has been associated with something negative. Selling connotes negativity. If you ask a parent, do you want your son or your daughter to be a salesperson? They will say no. But leadership is pitching. You are always pitching to your employees. You are always pitching to investors. Right now, KTN is running a very good program, the Lions Den. Now, what are guys doing there? They're pitching their ideas so that the investors or the sharks can actually give them some money. So life is always about pitching.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what are the do's of pitching and the don'ts of pitching?
Fantastic. It all depends. It all depends with your terrain. You know, somebody asked me a good question one time. Between a lion and a whale, which is stronger? It all depends on the terrain. When you come to the jungle, the lion is very strong. When it comes to
The waters.
the waters,
Yeah.
it's the whale that is ruling. Now, there are a few things that actually define pitching. I segment them into 4 major areas. Number 1, we have the principles of pitching. Then number 2, we have the preparation. How do you prepare? You have to know the principles, then you go to the preparation. Then number 3, you have to know how to pitch now, the pitch itself. Then finally, you have to know the performance. So when you go to the principles, and I think if you stick to that, the principles are like 20 or 25, but I'll speak just take a few. Principle number 1, when it comes to pitching, remember this. People act on emotion, then they justify with reason. Why? We are human beings. When you're pitching to a human being. Sometimes when we are pitching, we spend a lot of time preparing. We spend a lot of time gathering material. But what happens at that particular time? Emotion gets sidelined. And that's why so many people lose it. They forget that when you are pitching, you are dealing with human beings. And Abby, human beings are not rational. They act on emotion. You know what they say? People will forget what you say, people will forget how you say it, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So every time when you're pitching, remember this. You're speaking to the heart of somebody, not to the mind. So we spend a lot of time preparing, a lot of time, yes, gather that material. It's very essential. I'm not saying you just go and try to, how can I call it? You have to prepare.
Okay.
You have to prepare. Mistake number 2 that some people make when it comes to pitching. People don't realize that whenever you are pitching, it's competition. But in this competition, before anything else, before your pitch, it's about you. You know, in the old days, there were traveling salesmen, and what they used to sell were encyclopedias. They knew one thing. Before they pitched anything, before they sold their encyclopedias, they had to sell themselves. So in any pitch, before you talk about any idea that you have, the most important question for you to ask yourself is, am I sold? Can I buy myself? That's why I tell guys, before you get out of the house, go to the mirror every morning. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, can I buy myself? And if I can buy myself, how much can I attach myself? What is my value? Because pitching is 3 things. Number 1, body language. Number 2, tone of voice. Then number 3, the words that you use.
Okay. Okay.
So people forget body language. People forget the voice. But they concentrate so much, very much on the words. What do I mean? If you're pitching about an idea and it's about numbers, you'll go and try to scrounge for all the greatest numbers in the world.
Sure.
You'll forget about your body language. By the time you just look at me like this, you're already making judgments. When you you're going to knock somebody's door. When you just get in, when she says or when he says get in, when you walk in, champions are seen right at the door. So when you pitch, it all depends about you. The 3 things, the body language, the words that you're going to use. But out of all these things, the most important things is the body language.
All right.
Yes, Abi.
And as we wrap up, Griffins, of course, we've seen people who are very successful at pitching. And when each time you watch the KCB Lions Den, you see some of the lions, they actually just get that unique connection with someone looking for an investment. And I like the point that you bring out that people play with emotions.
Yes.
I remember watching one episode where someone first, when they were called into the room, they walked straight up to the lions seated there, and they gave them whatever they wanted to pitch. It was a product. And he asked them, please Have a go at it. Test. There were some cookies. The guy wanted some funding to go into the bakery business. And eventually the guy played to the emotions. So as we wrap up this conversation, perhaps what is that, you've talked about the do's and a couple of the don'ts. Let's dwell more on the don'ts, because at the end of the day, people do not know the art of pitching. It's something you nurture over time. You cannot just be an expert on a one-off. Perhaps, what would be your closing comments on this?
Very simple. As I talked about the fundamentals, as we said last week, number one, people buy people. Don't forget that. Number two, if they don't like you, they won't buy you. Number three, human beings are very emotional. People act on emotion, then they justify with reason. Number four, hunger is the best source. One of the best actors I like is Angelina Jolie. When she was pitching to act, she said this: before I went down to Universal Studios, I pulled down my photos from the internet and I pitched my butt off, B-U-T-T. The word she used is I don't want to use it here. We have live television.
Family TV.
Exactly. Now, if you take cue from what she said, hunger is the best source. Never forget that. Number five, remember this. Always, never sell logic, arouse emotion. But for you to do all that, you must believe in your pitch. Why? If you don't believe it, then you cannot live it. I've said you have to have passion. You have to be passionate. Because why? The three things that make a good pitch is your passion, your energy, and your enthusiasm. P-E-E. I call it peeing. Every morning, we all pee. So anybody can make a good pitch. Are you passionate enough? Do you have the energy? Do you have the enthusiasm? Do not put yourself on the pedestal if you don't believe in the idea. Number two, do not go pitching if you don't have the energy. And for heaven's sake, if you don't have the enthusiasm, you'd rather wrap up your bags.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome place to end it, Griffins.
Thank you.
What should we expect next week?
Next week, we're going to still dwell on the fundamentals of making a very good pitch, because every other time we're busy pitching. And for me, I usually say, when I wake up every other morning, I'm going out there to the territorial battles. And in those territorial battles, it's all about pitching. So we'll still continue about pitching, because I think we still have to do some more justice on the subject of pitching.
So what do you tell viewers?
Every time you go out of your place, remember three things: your passion, your energy, and your enthusiasm. That is what defines you. You're a student, you're looking for a job. Be passionate, be energetic, have the enthusiasm. You're a leader, you've got a vision. Trust you me. If you don't believe the vision, you cannot live the vision. Thank you, Obi.
Great place. Many thanks, Griffins Omwenga. If you don't believe the vision,
you can't live the vision.
You can't live the vision.
You have to believe it before you live it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Obi.
I appreciate your time. Well, that is Griffins Omwenga just debunking the myths for us when it comes to Public Speaking 101, a segment that we hope to grow with you this year as we nurture some of the skills you never believed you had when it comes to public speaking. Make a date with us every Wednesday, 3 to 4 p.m. on KTN News, your authoritative news channel. My name is Abi Agina. Thank you for your valid company. And we definitely look forward to next week's Bizword. Be on the lookout. Our teams will be on the ground to ask you the difficult words. And at the end of it all, we will try to educate you as well. Thank you so much. Coming up next is our Swahili team with more news from across the country.